Welcome to the Hudson County Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Haig, and with me today is a very, very special guest. He had a great high school career at St. Anthony in Jersey City. He then first went to St. John's University and spent 2 seasons there. And then from there, he became the first ever transfer to ever play for Coach Mike Krzyzewski at Duke University. And then from there, he was drafted in the NBA draft, drafted number 20 overall by the Atlanta Hawks, and had a brief career with the Atlanta Hawks before injuries took him out. And then later on, he became a basketball coach and was the head coach at St. Benedict's Prep in Newark. And it's my friend Roshown McLeod. Roshown, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Jim. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well because I'm talking to you. So.
I appreciate that, man.
No problem. No problem. Okay.
We've been trying to get this going for a little bit, man.
Yeah, a little bit, but we got it. We got it today. That's the most important thing. All right. Let's go back to when you were a little boy. Where and what part of Jersey City did you grow up?
I started off in the Arlington section.
Okay.
My family grew up in the Pettiford family. We grew up in the Arlington Gardens, Randolph Avenue Junction area.
Okay.
And
a lot like Terry DeHare.
Oh yeah, so I grew up across the street from Terry DeHare.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, my mother's a slight, a little bit older than Terry, and basically I grew up on the other side of the street, basically.
Okay. So did he monitor you? Did he mentor you at all? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean I've known him since I was young, man. Basically, his father was one of the supers for the buildings across the street in Arlington Gardens.
Oh, okay.
So, we had a great relationship from day one. So, my dad and them used to play pickup down what we call Terry DeHare Park.
Yep, it's now Terry DeHare Park, yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up across the street from that, and my dad and all his friends used to yell at Terry because he was the young kid. He was the young kid that was trying to get in the games. and he would take his ball when he didn't get picked up.
Oh, one of those. Oh, see, I'm gonna have to address that with Terry when he's done to do it. I talked to him earlier this week, and he said that he was willing to do the podcast, but he was too busy moving furniture for a nice looking young lady. And I was like, oh, okay, we all know where that goes. So he will be a guest on the podcast in the near future. So anyway, and where did you go to grammar school?
So I started off at PS 12.
Okay.
For kindergarten through 3rd grade, and then I moved down to PS 22 from 4th grade to 5th grade, and then I graduated my middle school was 6th grade through 7th grade at PS 34 up in the Greenville area.
Aha! So you were moving close to me. That's what you were doing, see?
Oh yeah. So I ended up moving up towards Warner in Jackson.
Wow. Okay.
Where my grandmother lived. I ended up staying with my grandmother because my mom had me at 16, so I was she was young, I was young,
Your mother had you when she was 16?
Yeah, and she
went
to Lincoln. My mother went to Lincoln. My whole family went to Lincoln, basically.
Okay.
Prior to me going to St. Anthony's.
Yeah. So did my mother, so we got something in common. My mother went to Lincoln too, see?
My mother played baseball at Lincoln High School, man.
You're kidding!
Females, yeah. She was one of the few females that actually played on the baseball team.
Was John Appleman the coach? Do you know?
I don't remember. I just know my mom was about 5'11", man. She was really a great athlete.
Well, too bad she didn't play basketball.
She did play basketball a little bit. She played all sports, man. She ran track.
Wow. What's her name?
Diane Pettiford. They called her Dee Dee.
Dee Dee.
She played. You remember the highlight? She played softball for the highlight.
Oh yeah, the highlight, sure.
And they were a really good softball team.
So wait a minute, are you related to Gary Pettiford?
Gary's name is Pitchford.
Oh, Pitchford, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Pitchford. Yeah, everybody. Initially we thought we were related because the way you would say the name, you didn't. Then when I saw how it was spelled, but he went to school with my mom. He was a freshman when my mother was a junior. So
okay.
We knew each other. We did know each other, and he knew who my mom was, and they grew up in the same neighborhoods, you know.
Roshown, he is a wonderful man. He is somebody who I really, really admire and known him since we grew up together. And he is just an absolute wonderful man. I love Gary a great deal, but I drew a blank. Yes, his last name is Pitchford. I apologize. So
no, I mean it's Gary really helped me, you know, my whole St. Anthony's career.
He did. Okay.
Oh yeah, you know, I played freshman. Like, you know, I didn't even play basketball until I get to that summer going into my freshman year of high school.
Right.
So a lot of people, you know, wouldn't know that looking at my end of my career, but in the beginning of my career, I didn't even enjoy playing basketball. Gary was one of the first people who helped me. Him, Coach Haas, a guy by the name of Brian Crawford.
Yep.
You know, they really helped me enjoy the game.
Okay.
Of basketball, and then you know how tough it is to play for a guy like Coach Hurley when you're a young guy.
Right.
You know, they helped me, you know, maneuver around the words and take the concepts that were given and help me formulate who I was as a player.
Okay. Now, let's go back to when you were in grammar school. And so you didn't play anything? No, you played basketball when you were
I did.
You did not?
I didn't play basketball.
Oh, okay.
Baseball.
You played strictly baseball?
Yeah, so Willie Banks, his brother Benny.
Yep.
He played baseball, and I was a big fan of Benny, who was a better athlete than Willie. But
he was a better athlete than Willie Banks? Wow.
Yeah, ask Willie, man. He'll tell you.
Okay.
But he had some issues that he had to deal with, some demons.
Okay.
Willie was on the right path, so he was able to have those opportunities. But their family and my family was really close. And I grew up a Willie Banks, Benny Banks fan.
Wow, okay.
Baseball all the way up through 8th grade, down with Pop down at the
with Pop Russell?
Yeah, man.
Oh, okay.
Down at the Garfield. So
yep.
You know, I was still about.
And did you play? Where'd you play Little League? Greenville National Little League?
Yeah, Greenville National. Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, we played. And I also played for Bob's Fishery, man, down in downtown, and when they had the baseball fields on Communipol.
Yep. All right. So baseball. Yeah. So who would have ever thought that your baseball would have been your first sport, and that would have been the game
that? My first love, man.
Yeah.
It was my first love. Big Mets fan back then.
Big Mets fan. See, I knew there was a reason why I love you, Roshown.
I wasn't a Yankees fan.
Nor here. I grew up in a family of all Yankee fans. I married a Yankee fan, and I'm a diehard Met fan. I will be until they throw the dirt on me. I love the Mets. So,
yep. And what happened was you know, Billy Bush, who was my cousin.
There's another great guy. See, Billy and I were close when I used to run that Jersey City Summer League. Billy starred in that league. That was like his coming out party.
Yeah, and Travis Pettiford is my cousin. So Travis's father and my grandmother are brothers.
Oh.
And so they were at St. Anthony. So when I was coming in, you know, I was going to St. Anthony's to play baseball. And Eddie Rich was the one that got me into playing basketball.
Wow.
He saw, you know, he and Roshown. You remember? Oh man, that was a name blast from the past.
Right there, that came out.
Roshown.
Yep.
He was telling Eddie Rich that I was a really good athlete and that my mom was a good athlete. I come from a family of athletes, so they invited me to come down to White Eagle on Sunday mornings.
Okay.
And that's when.
And this is before you enrolled at St. Anthony's, or you were already going to St. Anthony's?
Well, I was going to St. Anthony's already to play baseball.
For Hogan? Was Hogan still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was a big Willie Banks fan.
Okay.
And so once I started getting into basketball, you know, all my friends who, you know, the Halim and Kashara, Wilson, and all those guys, we all played baseball together, and they all switched to basketball, and so I switched to basketball. It was just one of those things where I just switched because my friends switched.
All right, so there was when did the growth spurt hit? You said you were about 5'6". When did the growth spurt hit?
Well, I was about 5'6", when I graduated from 8th grade.
Wow.
And when I got to high school, I was 6'2".
Okay, so from graduation in June to September, you went from 5'7" to 6'2"?
I did, yeah.
Roshown, see, now I also had a growth spurt too myself. I went from 5'6" as a freshman in high school to 6'5", and finally up to 6'8". Now, but I used to have really bad leg pains, and they called it growing. You know the term growing pains. That's legit. My shins and my legs killed me. Did you have the same things?
Oh yeah, I used to think I was injured all the time, and Coach Hurley used to call me the Spirit of '76. that was prior to me even knowing what that was.
Okay.
But he used to be like.
So you were limping all the time?
I was always limping. I was always, I had an ache here, pains here. And Coach Hurley used to be like, we're not going to have any Spirit of '76ers. Get out there and play. And the guys used to make fun of me. They didn't even know what the Spirit of '76 was.
Right.
They used to just clown me about it. But I used to always think I was injured because I was growing so fast. And I went from 5'7" to about 6'2" at the beginning of my freshman year. At the end of my freshman year, I was 6'5".
Wow! So you even had more of a growth spurt than I did. That's incredible. You must have been in agony. Your shins must have been.
I was in so much pain, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, and then it became normal. Like the pain just was normal. And when I was playing, that was the only time I really had relief from the pain because my adrenaline was pumping and sweating, and I was loose. But once I stopped playing, man, and like I would cool down, my body would be killing me, Jim.
Oh man, huh? I can relate to that so totally. All right, so you're 5'6" as a freshman, all the way for basketball season starts. You're 6'2". Were you a power player? Right away? Were you somewhere you had to be close to the basket?
I was horrible.
Horrible?
Just put it that way. Gary Pitchford turned me into a basketball player.
Okay.
He really did. Like the skills, Gary he was the one that would pick me up. He and Eddie Rich would be the ones that would come to my house and pick me up for the workouts on Sunday mornings at White Eagle. And because they saw something in me and I got really, it's weird. I started to get really good really fast.
Okay.
But the thing about when you do that, all I had to compare it to was Roger Rhodes.
Okay.
And like the top players. So I didn't realize that, my version of how bad I thought I was still really good compared to the rest of the world at high school level.
Okay.
But because the only thing I had to compare it to was St. Anthony's basketball. So I learned basketball at the highest level from the first day. I never went through bad habits and, trying to do this and trying to do that. I played a little bit of the clay basketball in the schoolyard, but that was probably the most of it.
Okay.
As far as basketball.
All right, so now you're on the freshman team at St. Anthony's and you're 6'2". And you said you were horrible, but how did you do your freshman year? Did you play? Were you?
Yeah, I played. I was probably the fourth best player on our team. We had a kid named Devon Duncan. Do you remember the sport?
Absolutely.
We graduated grammar school together. That was a close friend of mine. He was on my team. We had a dude named John Finucane.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
John, he's no longer with us.
Right.
He was really good. We had Halim played JV and some freshmen back and forth. Jaleel was a freshman too, but he didn't play any freshman basketball. He was on JV.
Right.
He was really good. Then we had Jermaine Robinson, who was also, his dad gave me my first haircut, close friend.
Okay.
We had who else? We had Bobby Morgan.
Oh, okay. He was a great coach now.
Yeah, he's doing really well.
Doing really well. He won his region championship at Essex County College last year. So.
Yeah, and so we had a really good team, man, and so a lot of those guys had played, basketball it's since 5th and 6th grade, and I didn't for some reason, and so I played because I was tall and I was mobile.
Okay.
But I picked up on things really fast. That was the thing. I was able to rebound and I was able to run.
Okay.
And I wasn't a really good finisher yet because I was still growing into my body. My nickname was Roly Poly growing up because I was a little chubby kid.
Okay.
But when I had the growth spurt, now I'm like Sticks. So I had to
So you went from Roly Poly to Sticks?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! All right. Great nicknames.
Right, and so so I played, but I wasn't one of the better players. I was just tall.
Okay.
And I was the tallest guy on our team. And then as a sophomore, I was starting by the end of the freshman season, and we went. I think we only lost one game to St. Benedict's that year.
Okay.
So we were really good. And,
is that foreshadowing? Is that you only lost one game and it was to St. Benedict's? Is that foreshadowing? If we're telling the Roshown McLeod story, it's like, lost one game to St. Benedict's.
Yeah, and that was the one. Sokolowitz was the coach, and it was a really good game. And they beat us by 1 point with Elijah Allen, that crew. So it was really good. It was a great game. Only loss we had of the season. And then sophomore year, I grew to. I was like I said, I was 6'5" by the end of the season.
Okay.
And I got moved up to varsity
right away.
And because they were, like Sean Rooney, all those guys were leaving.
Right.
And so they were losing a lot of size. And so coach brought me up as a practice player, and I would play some JV. And I hated playing varsity because I wasn't with my friends anymore who were my freshman team. They were all on JV. And I just, after 4 games, we went to San Diego, the Above the Rim tournament, man. When we came back, I just was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I actually just stopped playing.
You're kidding?
I did. Coach Early put it out there that I was injured, like I had an injury, but I just stopped playing, man.
So you didn't play after the 4th game of your sophomore year?
Yeah.
And you didn't come back?
Enjoy it.
You didn't come back?
I used to tell my mother I was going to practice, and I would tell Coach Early I had to go to church, man, and I would go.
Wow. Okay. So, all right. So then, what motivated you to come back?
My mother was going to kick my butt.
Oh, so she caught on. She found out, huh?
Well, one day, Coach Hurley, after the season, he and Gary Greenberg and Gary Pitchford and Coach Haas all in. I think they might have had a conversation with each other, but they all end up talking to my mom about me and how much potential I had and why I wasn't showing up, and she was like,
"What?
Wait a minute, what are you talking about?" And one day I come home and they basically mapped my life out for me at that point, and my thought process, because of the fear of my mom, was I might as well enjoy it.
That is great. So you owe a lot. You owe a lot to your mom. There's no question, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Danny let's put it this way: Danny picked me up from school from that point, the rest of my sophomore year, to make sure I went to all the workouts at White Eagle.
Okay. You're talking about Danny Hurley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Danny was a senior.
Okay.
So he and Travis drove to school in the morning, and so he picked me up, and Coach Hurley dropped me off at home.
Okay. All right.
And that was my life.
Okay. When was it that Brian Doherty became part of your life, and how influential was Brian Doherty to you?
That was the year Brian became a huge part of my life. I met Brian that summer going into my at the end of my sophomore year. I met Brian at a boys club event.
Okay.
And he really took a liking to just me as a young man, my family, my mom. He and my mom just connected at the event, and she was just sharing like he's got a chance to do something, and I don't think he understands it. So Brian was able to help me see the opportunities that I had in front of me as far as being able to go to college, change my family dynamics, and things like that. So even though Brian, the way he mapped it out for me was, you can go to college and you can make your mom proud. And so that was a part of my initial motivation of getting back into playing basketball was, this is going to make my mom proud of me.
Okay.
Make her happy. And Brian was the one that helped me see that.
Okay. Well, it was a great relationship. There's no question between the two of you. He adored you, Roshown. He absolutely adored you. There's no question.
He was like my dad. I looked at him as my, like, I mean, my dad was around,
Right.
We had a great relationship, but Brian was, but my dad was a, South Carolina, small town guy, and he didn't have a whole lot of life experience. But Brian, he was a lawyer. He saw life, and he was able to share things that Jersey City didn't offer at the time. And he was able to share his experiences with me to give me a different point of view of all of this stuff is out here. You don't see it in front of you, but this is out there. It's a bigger world than what you can see here in Jersey City. And he exposed me to that stuff.
Okay. All right, how much did it help you while you were at St. Anthony's to have somebody like Jaleel Roberts right alongside of you, a guy with a lot of talent, a guy who could play as equally as well as you did, and now obviously had goals himself and being a Division I player. And how much did the two of you push each other? And did you?
Oh,
yeah. Go ahead. Talk about that.
He was my brother. Like, we were all really, really close, but I would probably say Halim, Jaleel, myself, and Kashara Wilson were, I used to spend the night at Jaleel's house to go to school every morning, to get a ride sometimes once my junior year started.
Okay.
And he was gone. But his mom drove us to every game or, to the bus to get to everything we needed to. And it didn't hurt that I dated his sister,
Is that true?
Nyree.
You dated Nyree?
Yeah, we dated.
Oh, my gosh. Well, she was the older woman in that relationship, though, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was she, about 2 years older than you? 3?
No, I'm older than her. But we're the same age. So this is the cool thing. I was a young freshman, so I was a 13-year-old freshman.
13 years old?
Yeah, so when I graduated, my first year at St. John's, I was 17 years old.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know. You know what? I never knew that. Yeah.
Only person, myself and Jamar Curry, our birthdays were like 10 days apart. We were the youngest two. I turned 17 and he turned 17 after me.
Wow.
So I was the.
So you turned 17 after you graduated high school?
Well, no, I turned 17 during the season.
Oh, okay.
November 17th. I started my senior year at 16 years old.
Oh my gosh. Oh God.
And so yeah, I was a 13-year-old freshman, and everybody else was going on 15.
Oh, okay.
And I was going on 14.
Right.
So they were a year and a half.
So then basically you and Nyree were the same age then?
Basically.
Yeah. Okay. Just the different years in school. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, how much did that help to motivate you too? That you had a good friend who was a great basketball player, and you had a girlfriend who was a great basketball player.
It was great, man, because it was always, I went from not really loving basketball to this whole new concept of wanting to change and go to college and do this other things, and I was around people who were my close friends who wanted the same things that I wanted. So it made it a great relationship. I mean, even just put it this way, to this day, I'm still in contact. Out of the 17 guys that was on my high school team as a senior, I'm still in contact with 16 of them.
Is that true? And the other one unfortunately passed away, huh?
Right, exactly.
Unbelievable. That's a great story right there. Yeah, that is absolutely.
And we actually did a Zoom. We did a Zoom not too long ago with Mike Jordan and some of the guys. It was our first one, so we're trying to get everybody on board. Dwayne Holmes and Jaleel. We got to get Halim Abdullah on it. But we trying to get that senior year team launched. But they was on it, so we're trying to get the whole team together to just always stay connected.
Wow, so you're still in contact with Jaleel Roberts? Because he fell off the face of the earth when everything happened.
He lives here in Georgia.
Oh, he does?
He's down here, yeah. He's down here in Georgia. He's married now. Who would have ever thought that?
Who would have ever? Yeah, no. Because his personality is bizarre, very, very sullen and stays to himself,
Yeah. Now he's outgoing. He works out a lot. He's a health conscious person. Still one of the smartest people you'll ever meet.
And had one of the sweetest strokes shooting the ball.
That lefty stroke was
Unbelievable. There was one game you guys played your junior year when he went nuts, and Hurley and Coach Hurley just let him go nuts, and he had about, I'm going to say 39, something like that, 41. I think it was 41.
It was actually
44.
44. Scored game at the St. Anthony by a player.
Right, that was the highest single game scoring record. Was that?
Yeah, 44 points, man. It was out in California against Isaac Fontaine.
Yeah.
And he was just on fire, man. And we just kept feeding him. And that was the cool thing about that team. Nobody really cared about individual goals. It was always, we gotta win. And not a whole lot of teams are built like that today because of this whole individual development process that people go through. We were developed as a unit from day one.
Right.
That gave us an advantage, I believe. And when we had tough games, if you didn't have that bond, we had each other's back, and we would do anything to win the game for each other.
Right. And then, the two of you, other than the fact that he had a better shooting stroke than you did back then.
I wouldn't say that, Jim. I would just say.
Oh, no. I'll say that. All right. But the two of you, the two of you are playing at almost the same type of position, and I would imagine.
Each other very well.
I agree.
I was an inside guy.
Right.
I had a lot of post moves, and one of the things that I found out recently, and I didn't know this until I saw the game when we played our senior year game against Lamar Greer and those guys at the Meadowlands. That my senior year of high school, I shot 71% from the field.
Yeah, no. Because everything you did was you got offensive rebounds and you put it right back.
And I had a nice little hook shot, and I had a little, 8 to 10 footer that I would shoot when I flashed to the lane. That was it.
And you had a very good drop step. So if you got the ball down at the block, you use that drop step and go up strong. So it was like, you were unstoppable from 5 to 8 feet. You were absolutely unstoppable back then. So.
Yeah, and I wanted to be. That was the other thing. Like nowadays, if a kid wants that, everybody will tell him that he's crazy for not wanting to shoot threes. And it's like, but he may not be mentally prepared to do it. He may not mechanically be able to do it. And he may, and so they push him to be something that he's probably not ever going to be to make everybody else happy instead of being effective.
That's correct.
The way that his body is made. So, as a coach now, when I see kids, I always try to help them become the best version of themselves, not what other people want them to be.
Okay.
Because I know for me as a player, as much as I love shooting the three, I knew that wasn't my shot.
Yeah.
I leave that to Jaleel and Halim and, those guys. I let them shoot the three. And my biggest goal was to just put the ball in the hole, and I wanted to make every shot that I took. So I tried to get as close to the basket as I could. Yep,
that's absolutely what was going on back then. And your senior year, you guys won the Tournament of Champions, correct?
Oh, yeah. We won that game by like 35 or 36 or something like that.
Right.
It was a nice run, man.
Was that against Shabazz?
No, that was Shabazz lost. I think they had lost to, it was Middle Township.
Oh, Middle Township. That's who you beat.
Yeah, we played Middle Township with Lamar Greer, Stefano Anderson, and that group of guys, man. They had a great year, but they just ran into a
buzzsaw. That's what that was. That was a buzzsaw. That was a well-oiled machine by the time you hit the Meadowlands. And you went 29-1, I think, that year, right? You only lost one game?
We lost one game. by 1 point. Yep.
Yep. That was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that game was, it was. I think it might have been against the same Raymonds. We lost them by 1 point
Yep.
at their place. But it was what it was.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about your recruiting process. And were you first of all, when you started to get the colleges to come to look at you, were you a little surprised that you were starting to get that many Division I looks? And by that point too, you already had grown, so you were 6'6", 6'7", something around there.
Yeah, about 6'6".
Yeah.
6'6" going into my junior year.
Yeah.
And but it's funny because I really only wanted to go to Seton Hall.
Okay.
When we started this whole process, because Terry was there, Danny was there, Jerry was there, all the people I knew was there, and they were having success. And so Seton Hall was like if let's put it this way, if they offered me Jalil and Brevin Knight at that time, because Brevin played on my AAU team.
Okay.
And if they would have offered the three of us, we all would have went there.
Wow.
But
and who knows how good you guys would have been. Now,
DJ Carlissimo didn't think I was a good player, though. I ain't gonna say he didn't think I was good. He didn't think that I could compete in the Big East.
No, really? Oh, let's get him on the phone right now, and just we'll say.
I was told.
Okay.
So that's why they.
Well, that was a really bad scouting report that he said that you couldn't play at Seton Hall because. And now did you?
We had a conversation about that too. When I came home one year, I went over. He was doing something on television with the Meadowlands, and I stopped over and checked it out. We became really good friends, as a matter of fact, afterwards. But and he was like, "Man, I made the wrong choice."
And he first of all, he's a great guy and he's a great friend of mine. And here's the thing about PJ is that he never forgets a person. Ever. I don't get that where he gets that from, but he meets somebody once, he remembers that person to a T. And he remembers things about me to a T. I can't comprehend how well he does. So he's a treasure. All right, so how did Seton Hall? I mean, so wait a minute. So Jalil signed with Seton Hall, though, didn't he?
But he went to Wisconsin first.
Oh, that's where he went. Okay.
He went to Wisconsin first, and then he came back home. And I think BJ might not have even been there after that.
Yeah, no, he was gone.
Yeah, so he came home to be closer to home because those cornfields out in Wisconsin wasn't good for him, being a city guy, but it's funny because I would probably say the first letter, I didn't even really get letters because Coach Hurley used to keep them.
Yeah, he would intercept the letters because he didn't want you guys to know what you were getting. Right.
Right. We didn't want us to get the big head. So
right.
I think it was one workout we was having, and I got a letter from Duke on practice.
Okay.
And this is my junior year, and I get a letter from Duke, and Coach was practicing, and Coach stops practice, and he goes, "Could you believe this? Roshown McLeod has gotten a letter from Duke. What is the world coming through?" And he gives me the letter, and I'll read the letter, man, and that was great motivation for me at that point. And then next thing you know, I started seeing the Arizonas, the Wake Forest, the UCLA's, the Notre Dame's, and the Connecticut's, and all of those schools start to come in after I come back from that summer of my junior year going to Nike camp in ABCD. Okay,
and I remember you at ABCD. You played very, very well there. There's no question. You played very, very well. That was like your coming out party. No questions. You did really, really well. And
two things were really great that summer for me was the first thing that started it was I used to do all the drills for Coach when he would go speak at all the camps.
Yep.
So I was always working on my skill set. Like I didn't go to a bunch of the camps. I only went to Nike and Adidas camp, but all the other camps that he spoke at,
right.
All those camps, I would go demonstrate the drills for him. So I would do that 4 or 5 times a day.
Right.
And so I was working on my skill set. So when I got it by the end of that period, And when I went to camp, I was so prepared technically and physically that, I even used to, when Bobby would go speak, I would do Bobby's and do the drills for Bobby and Andy when they went to speak too. So that was a way for me to get my skill set up faster.
Wow.
And at the end of every one of those sessions, they would always call the best kid out in camp to come play me one-on-one, and I would destroy him. And they'd be like, why isn't this kid at camp? And, but then I ended up going to Nike that year, and then I went to ABCD, and I had a great week. And then
great week against some great talent too. You had a great week against some really talented guys, and I remember that, like,
and all of those guys. I had a great week.
Yep.
And then I shifted from playing for the Jersey City Boys Club and ended up playing for Rich Leary.
Okay. What program was that?
The New Jersey Demons.
Oh, Demons. Okay.
The one Rich Leary. Jay Williams played there. The one man played for Rich. And because what happened was he wanted me, Jalil, and Halim to be all on the same team because that was our core group at that age.
Okay.
And other teams didn't want to take Halim because they had, like, when I was playing with Brian Crawford, we had Brevin.
Right.
And Gabe Baltimore.
And Halim was tiny, so
he was tiny, right? And not that he wasn't good, but
he was good, but he was he was 5'7", 5'8", something like that, and back then Division I schools didn't recruit people that were 5'8",
Right.
Exactly. Including one of my favorite players, Roshown McLeod, was about 5'8", 5'9". That's the reason why a lot of Division I schools backed off on him. It's because of his size,
I mean, it was mistakes as they see now when you look at those guys' careers, but big men ruled back then. So Coach Hurley, Rich was willing to take Halim with us, so we ended up all playing together, and then Brevin ended up coming to play with us anyway over for Rich Leary.
Wow! So Halim and Brevin Knight in the same backcourt?
Oh yeah, we had Brevin.
That must have been good.
We had a kid named Ferdinand Williams. Remember Ferdinand Williams?
No. Where did he go?
He ended up playing at George Washington.
Wow.
But I forget what high school Ferd went to.
Okay.
We had Chad Glenn. We had Jason Roberts. We had John Celestin. I mean, we had.
Wow, that's a great team.
Yeah, we had Jason Murdoch.
Wow, the kid that went to Eric Murdoch's brother that went to Providence.
That's his cousin.
Yeah, cousin. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but we had literally, I would probably say we had 13 players, and 10 of us were Division I players.
Wow.
Mid to high major.
Yeah.
And then Dan Earl.
Dan Earl, right? Okay, went to Shawnee, played at Penn State, right?
Yeah, Kurt Buckman.
Okay. That's a great team, and guess what? You must have saw the ball a lot because those are a lot of ball handlers there. They could get you the ball, and in good positions.
Good passers, man. We had only Halim was the one that didn't pass that often.
Yeah, no, he wanted to shoot.
He wanted to shoot. But we had a really solid.
But he was trying to make a name for himself, though, too. Think about it. A lot of you guys, like for you and Jaleel, you both had committed your junior year going into your senior year. That summer, you both already knew Halim didn't have any offers, so he was probably still trying to make a name for himself.
Yeah, exactly right. And so after the Adidas camp, playing with Rich Leary, we ended up going over to the Gauchos gym to play in a tournament, and Felipe Lopez is there, Reggie Freeman, all of the top New York guys are playing for the Gauchos, Riverside Church.
Wow!
And we playing in a tournament on the weekend, and Rick Pitino was there, all of that, Dean Smith, everybody's there, and I went crazy. I'm talking about I was averaging probably 27 or 28.
No, really? Wow!
Oh man, I'm talking about it was. One game I had about 40, man, and I was hitting threes and everything. Like I wasn't just an inside player. Like this was one of the first times where I started stepping out. I didn't do it at all in high school. But
nope.
In AAU, I stepped out and would shoot the three. And Rich taught me how to get open to shoot, to be able to get those shots, which was really amazing for me because I could shoot. I just didn't know how to get it myself. I knew how to catch and shoot really well, which is what Coach taught me to do. And Rich taught me how to use it within the offense. And so that leaving ABCD and then playing in that really solidified that I was a Division One player.
Okay. So when was it, and how did it happen that you ended up getting recruited by St. John's?
So I was being recruited really heavy by South Carolina coach by the name of George Felton.
Okay.
And George had, I guess their staff got let go at South Carolina. And even though I wasn't going to South Carolina, he and I just had a good connection. So we talked anyway. I was like, Coach, I'm not going to South Carolina. My dad's from South Carolina, and I go down there every summer. I ain't coming to South Carolina. So what happened was when they got let go, and St. John's, he got picked up at St. John's with Coach Mahoney, and he was like, we got to recruit this kid. So he kept the relationship, even though he knew I wasn't going there, and even when he didn't have a coaching job, he would still call.
Okay.
And so when he got the job at St. John's, he kept calling. He was like, I'm at St. John's now. I'm in your backyard. And I'm like, this makes some sense, because I really liked him. I knew the program. I loved Malik Sealy, obviously a Knicks fan. So
yep.
I wanted to play in the Garden. And so he recruited me really hard.
And Fraschilla was the head coach then, right?
No, Fran wasn't there yet. It was Brian Mahoney because Connor Sucker just retired, and Brian took over for like 2 or 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And one of the greatest guys in the world as well. But I just felt like I wasn't learning anything at St. John's. That was the reason I left. But I felt like I was a better player coming into St. John's than I was after my second year. Okay.
And then, so you played 2 years at St. John's, and it just wasn't materializing for you, and so then
I had a lot of questions. Yeah, I had a lot of questions that weren't getting answered. I felt like being a Jersey guy on the team to fill in New York guys, I just wasn't getting a fair shake, so I just needed to change the scenery. I mean, I love St. John's. I really didn't want to leave, but I knew if I was going to have a chance to be the best player that I could be, that wasn't going to be the place to get me there.
Okay.
And sit down with Coach Hurley, having that conversation with him, me sharing my concerns with him. He agreed, and so we didn't tell anybody. Like, I knew I was transferring halfway through my second year.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I was done.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a game we were playing the Georgetown Warriors in the Garden. And this was about probably 15 games left in the season. And, as much as I love Charles Menlin to today, who's still a friend of mine, we still could contact with each other till today. They had a doctor playing in front of me. He came to the United States from Africa to be a doctor.
Okay.
And he was starting power forward for St. John's. And I'm like, why I'm trying to make it to the NBA. You got a basketball player playing behind a doctor. And that just didn't make sense to me. And so, going through all that, we're playing the Hoyas, and I didn't get in the whole first half.
At all?
At all.
Wow.
It was a great game, too. It's a really back and forth game. And so Charles fouls out the game, and it's 10 minutes to go in the game.
Okay.
And Brian comes and says, I need you to go in, and I need you to play defense and rebound. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm an offensive player. I came from St. Anthony's. I know I got to play defense and rebound.
Right. That's what your whole life is about. Right.
That's what I do best. I'm an efficient scorer. I know exactly who I am.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm not going in.
Oh, really? You said you're not going in to Brian Mahoney in late in the game against Georgetown?
Yeah, I said, I'm not going in. You just asked me not to be a basketball player.
Wow.
I'm not going in. So then, so after that, one of the assistant coaches, Coach Felton, comes down, and then Ron Rutledge, they come down and talk to me like, man, we need you. I'm like, I know, but he don't know, obviously. And so, they put it in a way to help me understand why I should go in the game. So it's about 9 minutes to go in the game now. It's a back and forth game. And Ron and George says to me, I said, I'm leaving anyway, so none of this really matters.
Oh, gosh.
And they're like, well, if you're going to leave, you're going to need some things to put on your resume. And when you get out there, he can tell you whatever, but when you get out there, you're in control of what it is that you do.
Okay.
And I'm like, you know what? You're right. So I go in the game, and probably one of the best games I had at St. John's. And in 8 minutes, I think I played 7.5 minutes. I finished the game with 13 points and 8 rebounds. Hit the game-winning, hit a three-pointer to put us up, and blocked Allen Iverson's shot at the end of the game for us to get the victory.
Wow.
And they like, oh, coming out party for McLeod. And I'm like, man, give me my papers. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, all right.
But the funny thing is, the last 15 games of that season, I averaged 14 points and 8 rebounds in 16 minutes a game.
Wow. Okay. So, all right. So, how was it? How was it that Duke came into the picture to recruit you as a transfer, and considering the fact they never had one before?
So, after the season, Coach Hurley and I sat down, and he asked me, what do you want to do? And I was like, I just want to go to Arizona, because I wanted to go to Arizona really bad out of high school. But it was at 17 years old, it was far.
Okay.
I mean, I'd never been out of Jersey City that much, and I was just too young to be out in Arizona by myself, that far away from my family, and knowing how big the Pettifor family is.
Yep.
Jersey City, and the support that I wasn't ready for that, and Coach Hurley knew it. But I was like, I'm just gonna go to Arizona, and he was like, you sure you don't want to look at anybody else? And I was like, nope, I'm good, man. I should have went there in the first place. And so then I get a phone call from Coach K, because that summer, Bobby and I played down the Jersey Shore League.
That's right. For Brian Doherty's team. Yeah.
Brian Doherty's team, exactly.
Yeah.
And Bobby and I were like in the league. Bobby and I was like Stockton and Malone.
Yep, absolutely.
And I was averaging like 35 points a game.
Yeah,
I'm talking
a lot of fun.
Anthony Mason, we had so much fun. Bobby probably averaged 19 assists a game between he and I, the way we played. And he called Coach and was like, Roshown's transferring from St. John's. You should really look at him. And he's a Duke guy. And so Bobby initiated that. And then Coach K was in the hospital from the hip surgery.
Okay.
And so he ended up watching the last part of the season, which I call my resume.
All right.
And he saw how efficient I was as a player. And he contacted Coach Hurley, and then Coach Hurley contacted me and said, hey, Coach K is going to give you a call. And I'm like, hey, get out, whatever. And, so then they started to show interest. And so I'm like, wait a minute, I got to step back and take a look at Duke. I mean, it's Duke.
It's Duke. And that's where, when you got that letter, when you were a junior, you were really seriously considering Duke at that time, right?
And I would have gone there out of high school, but they had a kid in our class, Joey Beard, who was the number 2 player in the country.
Yeah, all right.
In my class, and he went to high school at Grant Hill, so they took him really early.
Okay.
And we played the same position. So, now you got Grant, now you got Joey Beard, now you got Tony Lang. I'm like, man, we all play the same position. Why am I, I can't go there.
All right. All right, so you end up announcing that you're going to transfer to Duke. And like as Coach Case always said, that you were a Duke guy, that you were, like you had the makeup of being a Duke guy, so it was not a big stretch at that time to get a transfer in, and you opened the door for other transfers. Like for instance, Dante Jones came right after you, right?
Yeah, and we had a very, very similar career.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is even when I was at St. John's fans used to say, you look like you should be at Duke. This was even before I was.
Is that true? Yeah.
Like, you look like a Duke guy. And I'd be like, whatever. And I eventually became a Duke guy because, like I said, when I went on the visit, I took 2 visits. And, everybody wanted to come back in on the recruiting thing, but I told Coach it's between Arizona and Duke. That's it.
Okay.
And Billy Lovett was at Fordham, and everybody was expecting me to to go down a
Yeah.
level. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not high enough. Like, I'm better than this.
Good.
That's what I'm thinking to myself. I'm like, they haven't seen me play.
Exactly.
Seen my potential.
Exactly. So, and it was the summer that you had to sit out.
That was a huge year for me.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you're going to remember the story between you and I. Okay.
I remember.
You remember?
The one where you was like the shoot the three story.
Exactly. That's what it is. It's the shoot the three story. And you were at White Eagle, and you're sitting out there beyond the 3-point circle, and I said, "Hey, Roshown, you can't hit that three. What are you doing out there? Get back underneath the basket. You can't hit that three." And you went, "Yeah, I can." I said, "No, come on, you can't do it." And I was busting shots, but I didn't believe you could. And then I think you shut me up by hitting 21 in a row. 21 in a row, and I went, okay, and I never questioned you again. So, but that's why it was a shock when you got to Duke, and then like one of your first or second shots in one of the games was a three, and I think a lot of people say, "Whoa, what is he doing? He's a power forward." Vanderbilt, right? And what does he do with shooting that ball? He's a power forward, and then bang, you drilled that three. And I said,
I got a story.
Good.
A YMCA story that you'll love. So that year, the year I sit out, I'm working out. I'm working on my whole game as a whole. And that summer, Roderick comes home, and everybody comes home, and White Eagle. We didn't get the White Eagle for some reason. We were playing at the YMCA with Mandy. Mandy was working at the Y.
Right.
And so we're all up there, and nobody seen me play in like 6 months because I was away.
Right.
And I sat out, so nobody saw me play. So I come home, and Roderick's in there, and Terry, and everybody's in there. I mean, the house is packed with Roy Hairston, everybody's in there.
Okay.
And I mean, nobody really saw me shoot threes like that yet. So I come in and I get the ball at the top of the key on a trail play, and Roderick steps back like, he's not going to shoot that. And I just step into it. It's like splash.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, whoa, wait a minute, where'd that come from?
See? Yeah.
And so I proceed to hit. I mean, I might have hit at least 23s that day.
Wow. See?
Just kept leaving me open. And then when they would come at me, I would put it on the floor, 1-2 dribbles, and shoot a pull up, or get to the basket, and they was just like, what the heck happened? Like,
yeah, where did this come from? Right.
And so that day, that was the first time I'd ever felt like Roderick was looking up to me.
Okay.
I'd always looked up to him, so much. And so that day, it was like, I was the man because everybody was like, "Oh, the torch been passed, the torch." So we get there the next day for a game, and Roderick is there an hour early getting shots up, and he's sweating. And he's like, "I'm ready for you today," and I'm like, "Wow, like he's gonna come after me today. Like I really got under his skin."
Yeah.
And I gave it to him again. Because I kept mixing it up. I would step in and I would post up. I would go back to my old game, and then I would step out on the three. And he just wasn't expecting it. And that was the day. They still tell that story in the Real Deal Barbershop till today, man.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Oh, my God. And so that was the day that people felt like I had took the reins of being one of the top players in Jersey City.
Okay.
Because Roderick had always been that.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. You were no longer, when you were shooting threes, you were no longer a shock. That's for sure. So,
exactly.
All right. Well, incredibly, you have now reached the hour part. So, we are now, if you don't mind, we're going to stop, and we're going to let you get a chance to regroup, and maybe we could do the second part of this with you talking about Duke and your pro career, if that's okay with you.
That's fine, brother.
All right.
That's totally fine.
All right, and then we'll be back with the Roshown McLeod podcast part 2. It will air next week. and just keep tuned in because we are just halfway home with Roshown McLeod. So this is Jim Haig, and special thanks to my executive producer Johnny Haig, my nephew, who helped me put this all together. And we'll be right back with Roshown McLeod for next week in the Jersey City. See, I called it Jersey City Hudson County Sports Podcast in next week's edition. So thank you very much for listening today, and don't go away. We'll have Roshown McLeod Part 2 next week. Thanks so much. Have a great day.